Good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are. I'm Paul Clark and welcome to my studio. Now I know I said a few weeks back that I was probably only going to be doing these videos once a fortnight while I'm running my classes. Well, I've managed to squeeze them in, so it's all been okay. Admittedly, Margot has locked me up here in the studio and she feeds me through a little gap in the door there, but hey, you have to suffer for your art. Anyway, this week we got a lovely little winter scene with a windmill, and this was taken from one of Margot's challenges on the Facebook group. So in most of the recent tutorials I've been doing, we've been painting in a much looser, freer, almost semi-abstract style. Well, today is what I perhaps call a little bit more of a traditional watercolour with a little bit more detail. So come and join me and we'll paint this step by step together. Okay, so for today's materials, my paper is some Arches on a block, so it won't need stretching, 140 pound cold press. Now for paints today, I'm trying out some new colours, and all are from Daniel Smith's, not sponsored. And they include Cadmium Yellow, Cobalt Blue, Prussian Blue, Burnt Umber and Payne's Grey. And this here is some Naples Yellow, which is quite a unique colour as it's very much an opaque paint, which is nice and creamy. And my two new colours, which I've never tried before, is this Amethyst Genuine, but any purplish colour will do, and this wonderfully named Aussie Red Gold, but you could use some burnt sienna or even some cadmium orange. And my brushes are this large HAKE, and from my range are 3/4 inch flat, number 12 and number 6 round, and of course my trusty number 3 rigger. Okay, so here is today's stunning reference photo of a Dutch windmill in the snow. Now what can be quite tricky here is establishing your tonal values, as sometimes colour can get in the way. So a great tip is to print out your reference photo in black and white, and this will really help you to see which values are lighter or darker, especially against the sky here. Okay, so here is my line drawing, and the traceable is free to download from my website, link below in the description. Okay, so a little bit of masking fluid on the windmill. Now it will just make painting the sky so much easier. Now I'm using an old brush for this, dipped in some washing up liquid just to protect it. Off we go, and I'm using my large HAKE brush here to completely wet the whole sheet. Now Arches can be a real thirsty paper, so I'm giving it a good soaking. So I would suggest using either a fairly thick paper today, or paper on a block, or stretching it, as there's bound to be some buckling. Right, straight away I'm using my flat brush. I'm putting in a lightish value of Cadmium Yellow mixed with some Naples Yellow. Now because Naples Yellow is opaque, it won't blend too much with the blues and purples, giving that sort of unwanted greenish colour in the sky. Next, this is some of the Amethyst Genuine. Next, this is a 50-50 mix of Cobalt Blue and Prussian Blue. And a little more of the amethyst. And blending with the blue mix here. Now here is a much creamier mix of the Cobalt Blue and the Prussian Blue, and I'm also mixing in some Payne's Grey to get a nice deep value in this corner. A touch more of the amethyst here, Then I'm mixing in a touch of cobalt blue for all the rest of the snow. Just a little touch of the yellow mix here, being careful not to blend it in too much with that amethyst. Now, dropping in wet with my number 12 brush, some of the Aussie Red Gold mixed in with a little burnt umber and some Payne's grey. And I'm just lifting out here with a damp brush to give a slightly harder edge to these trees. Let this totally dry, then with my large rubber eraser, cunningly disguised as a piece of toast, I'm just taking out all the masking fluid. Now strangely, I'm using the masking fluid again, but this time it's going on top of the areas I've painted with snow for these rails and fence posts. Now for these trees and bushes, I'm using various mixes of the Aussie Red Gold, burnt umber, and even adding in a touch of Payne's grey. Here with my number 12 brush, I'm laying it flat to the paper to pick up a little dry brush effect. And then with my rigger and some burnt umber, a few branch details. Next, with the yellow mix, I'm painting in these lovely sunlit areas and then dropping in a little Payne's grey into the near top corner here. And now for the windmill, and I'm adding in a touch of the Aussie Red Gold just to get a slightly warmer colour. Now I'm having to really concentrate here because last time I painted a windmill I had that ridiculous song about a windmill in old Amsterdam going around in my head for about 3 days and I couldn't get rid of it. You know the one I mean, the one with the little mouse with clogs on going clip clippity clop on the stairs. Okay, so now I'm just using a very watery mix of the amethyst for a few little shadows in the snow, all very light and subtle. And here, the shadow side of the windmill. Okay, so now we need to let this totally dry, so it's a perfect time for a short break and a glass of Holland's own Advocaat. So next, with my rigger and a mix of burnt umber and cobalt blue, I'm painting in some of the finer details. And the rigger is a great brush for this because it holds a lot of paint along the length of its bristles. Now, I don't usually paint with this amount of detail, but I just thought it would be a nice change. But I'm still not tempted to paint in every strut of the sails, just leaving gaps here and there. Here on the sunlit sail, I'm just lightening the value slightly. Next, now using my number 6 brush, quite a dark creamy mix, again of the burnt umber and cobalt blue. And as I move down the tower, I'm adding in a touch more water to lighten the value and leaving gaps for the yellow to show through. And exactly the same over here on the shadow side. Back in here with a very strong value of the same colour. And lifting out here with a damp brush, and then dropping in some very dark shadows using Payne's grey. So although this is a more detailed work, I'm still keeping my brush moving quickly, trying to give that nice, loose, free-flowing feel. Now that both the left and right hand sides of the windmill are dry, I can paint in this middle section. Again, just the same, leaving gaps as you move towards the bottom. And when this is dried, back in with a very dark value for these details, including the little windows. Next is this little tower thing here, which at first I thought was another windmill further away, but it's too close, so whatever it is, it's going in. And now, of course, the little pony, who's probably looking forward to going to his stables for the night. Now for the stables, and again a good strong creamy mix of burnt umber and cobalt blue. And I'm using some Payne's grey for the darker shadows. Back with my trusty rigger for a few details in the trees. And this is the Aussie Red Gold, and I'm just lightly and quickly dragging my brush across the surface of the paper to get a good texture to suggest this path. And a couple of posts. Now to remove the second application of the masking fluid. Then I'm painting in the left hand side of each post, as it's the front face that's snow covered. And then adding in a few little final details. Here there's just another little fence sitting here behind. So now I want to bring out the contrast of that lovely lit corner of the windmill. So I'm coming back in with some watery amethyst with my flat brush. Now you can probably tell I'm not normally left-handed, but it's easier to pull the brush away like this than use my normal right hand. Ah, now that's easier. So some of these snow-covered areas are a little bright for me, so I'm just knocking them back slightly with a very watery amethyst. Now, for those of you who regularly follow my tutorials, you'll know at this stage I like to use a white pastel pencil. But today I'm trying out this white gel pen, which should give me a very bright, clean white. Yum, loving it. Okay, so I'm going to use my pastel pencil for these three little birds caught by the light of the setting sun. There, I think we're done. A little mouse with clogs on, oh I declare, going clip clippity clop on the stop it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did and you'll give it a go. Please don't worry about trying to match my picture exactly, just put your own spin on it and make it your own. Most important thing is enjoy the experience. And of course, I look forward to seeing you all again next week. But please don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment. And as I said, I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Cheers now.